Have you ever noticed how odd yet common some traditional things are? Such as there are these rusty pickup trucks with the Christmas tree in the back. And some people that brings this nostalgic feeling of Christmas time with the old bedded truck hauling a Christmas tree in. Old Uncle Ned or Grandpappy used his bedded truck to bring the Christmas tree, and they had to have the tree guard and the tree scarf and all the stuff to stand the tree up, and it was this whole event. I get it. But then when you think about it, none of those things are necessary. None of them. None of them make the world go round. None of them do anything but put an idea in people's heads and give hope. I get it. But these traditions are kind of dumb. Especially now we have an advanced society and people are still holding on to an ornament that's a rusty Christmas truck with a tree in the back. And I say Christmas truck because now it's not just a bedded truck. It's a red and green bedded truck with a Christmas tree in it that says Merry Christmas on the side. And someone goes, oh, that reminds me of when I was a kid. Or they buy a mini mailbox that says Merry Christmas, Yuletide season. Like you needed to look at an ornament shaped like a little mini mailbox to remind you that it's the time of year where nature is going into hibernation and it's time to be thankful for the things you have. That doesn't make any sense why anyone needs to go through all these extra details in order to commemorate or honor that point in time for our seasons. Nature has a natural sequence. It's beautiful to behold, but to make ridiculous events out of it and make it important to take part in them is one of the things that has caused a lot of issues throughout the years. People without loved ones, people without anyone to share it with. Now it makes them feel less on these times of the year. Everyone made a huge deal out of it when they didn't need to. They should just enjoy life every moment of every day as much as they can and do it within reason and do it consciously. Another guy overheard me talking to somebody and he was like, well, yeah, man, I like what you were saying there. And I was like, yeah, I'm just spreading the word as much as I can because not enough people are doing it. And when I say the word, I don't mean religion. I mean the truth. He goes, yeah, the truth, yeah. And I was like, I don't know if people ever heard me saying this to them, but the word Daniel doesn't necessarily mean truth. It means what is happening. Always. It's Dan. That's what Dan is. Dan. Dia, active, notion, or nature. It's the to and from active, notion, or nature. And if you identify that and express it as your active base, that would become truth. That's where Daniel, living in his name vibration through God, is truth. But not every Daniel is just truth. They're going to do a certain thing that corresponds with their name, birthday, and where they were born. Every time, no matter what. Until they wake up, and none of them wake up when they're born. So it takes you your lifetime to work out your vibration, and after that you can then start being more. As long as somebody never really made you be something. Why do you think in places where they're not calling people by names and wearing name tags and going to school and all that kind of stuff right from the jump, that those kids have abilities? Because nobody forced them to act pretend instead of being who they are. Imagine what your kids would come up with if you didn't fill their minds with Monsters, Inc. and fairy tales from the time they were little babies. They would come up with real things that are real in nature. And if they were creative, you'd experience that creativity and see them growing and developing. You wouldn't just say, here, Dumbo. Hey, watch Fox and the Hound. Hey, watch Mickey's House of Mouse. Because that fills their minds with ideas. The world is so much more, and we've been playing make-believe the whole time that nobody wants to admit it and understand how deep it really is. We're all playing make-believe, every single one of us, in levels of it. There's the make-believe that we do through our TV and our shows. There's the make-believe we do through our religions and our governments. And then there's the make-believe we do through our own living nature, who thinks it's its name and doesn't understand this thing that I'm talking about, the vibration. That's why I'm explaining it. So when you stop being your name, you stop vibrating with the things that you were called into being for, to work out this lifetime. You're here to work out your sins this lifetime. Your sins are your sounds. They really are. Whether you get it or not, it doesn't just mean vocally. It means every movement. And I explain that stuff deeper in some of the videos. And if I had time to do it and people who were interested, I'd be able to go really deep into it. But nobody cares. At least it seems like it. And nobody wants to know. Until they do, I just have these little spiels of me going off on a camera or on a phone. And to me, it's taking away from the message. People need to know that I'm real and I'm not playing. And I do know God or the Creator. God and the devil are the same thing. Heaven and hell are the same thing. This is heaven on earth, and we're allowing it to be destroyed. So what we should see this as is warring in heaven. That's what it is. Everybody wants to be the best. Not everybody, but you know what I mean. So many people want to be the best or they want to be recognized for something. Just be real and be part of the world. And that's the best you can do, especially when it's so backwards. This day and age, having real, true success through the world never looks like real, true success to the world because people have the wrong idea of success. And that's not me just saying it or a belief system. It is how it is. Once again, I hate to rain on anybody's parade, but I think it's time that we understand what a dragon really is. In old mythologies, dragons were either the sky, the mountain, or the horizon. One of those three things. And the reason it was the dragon is because we know that a dragon, in most legends, guards, sleeps upon, or sometimes swallows the gold, and the dragon is the guardian of the gold. So why is it that when somebody tries to get the gold or digs out the gold, the dragon gets upset and breathes fire? Well, the horizon, the sky, the mountain, whatever covers the sun rising, gets angry and breathes fire when you dig out the gold, which is the sun. So when the sun comes out, the horizon, the mountain, or the sky breathes down fire on you. Oh! And it scorches the earth and leaves nothing left. That's the tale of springtime to fall. I hope people can actually understand that. It's just a different way of talking astrology from a different era. But it lasted. So now we have all these ancient mythologies of dragons guarding the gold. Yeah, the horizon, the mountain, the sky. I know what you're talking about, but we've given it really cool stories, and everybody's lost on those. Like they're going to go slay a dragon. Yeah, go take a sword and stab the horizon if you could. Go do it. It ain't going to work. But I love you guys. It's time for us to be real. If a dragon shows up in real life, hey, let's worry about it then. But until then, it's time to be real and help the people that are really hurting and dying and being sick right here in our world. Then, after we get all that stuff fixed, we can go back to playing make-believe a little bit. But let's keep our maturity level up. What people should try to understand is that there are varieties of people with preferences and hobbies of all different shapes and sizes. For instance, this really heavy, pretty-faced lady comes in and she gets all this camping stuff and she's like, oh, I'm so looking forward to going camping, but my husband talked me into camping in a tent, but pretty soon I'm going to go glamping with my nice big RV. We're saving up to get an RV, and I like being out in the woods when I was a kid, and it's been so long. I'm more or less just doing this as one last thing to remember my childhood camping days because I'm 30, and there's no way I should be sleeping on the ground. And I thought to myself, well, and I'm not putting her down because I understand why most people would think that way. What's wrong with the ground? Nature gave us a ground. And I'm not saying everyone should sleep on the ground, but we are so over-comforted that if we had to sleep on the ground, even for one night, when I've had people come from out of town and we're like, oh, we're going to camp, they're like, oh, I can't sleep on the ground. It'll hurt my back. Well, could you do it for one night? Oh, I don't want to. It'll make me uncomfortable. You're just thinking you'll be uncomfortable. I bet you could find a comfortable spot, especially with a sleeping bag or something. It's not going to be that, oh, I just can't do it because I don't sleep on the ground. I get it. But you just brought that idea up because I've seen so many people act like that. But then I see somebody who's quite big and not all that, agile and probably not all that coordinated. Not to try to insult her. There are a lot of heavy coordinated people. But at the same time, seeing that a person like that has no problem with sleeping on the ground. They might grumble about it, but they'll do it. There's other people who come and they're completely in normal, everyday shape as an average person, and they won't do it. I'm not sleeping on the ground. No way. No way you're going to get me to do that. That's kind of animalistic. And then when I think of people say stuff like, I'm not an animal, but you gobble them down, don't you? Most likely. Especially when they go camping. A lot of people in their camping, it's just all meat and death. And if you think about how natural that really is. Let me come from the city or from a place where I'm in a house with all this stuff I bought from the store, and then cook it up in the woods as if we're natural. Not like you hunted for it. And if you did, you didn't have to. So therefore, there's really no reason to go camping and eat dead animals. You should be camping to appreciate nature. It's almost kind of opposite of what most people are doing, but I get it. We've been raised backwards, and it wasn't on purpose. Not every time, but either way, I just thought I'd say that. It isn't always like this, but you could look at it this way. Almost any time, whether or not people know it, they're going throughout their life with some kind of background scenario driving whatever movements they're making or whatever decisions they take into the world. When we think about how people have always been thrusted into things, school, work, demands placed upon you. The big issue is if people don't know what the world is for, nobody knows what the world is for. If you don't know what you're here to do, somebody can get you to do something for them. Until people figure out what the purpose of being alive is, they'll do things like chase after money, because if people think that the whole idea of money is collect things and guard what's yours, then we're completely living backwards. But if that's what people think the world is for, then I guess we're doing exactly what we're supposed to. And if we're doing exactly what we're supposed to, then that would be like saying the world is meant to be chaos. Yes, you can look at it and say everything's chaotic. Oh, the actions of your bodies and your cell division, that's chaotic. The actions of the animals in the ocean, nature environments, that's chaotic. But people don't have to do that. We can, and it's not hard to join in with the chaos, as we've shown. But as a higher intelligence, it's quite hard to get other people to chill the hell out. That's all they have to do, is learn how to stop being so outrageous all the time. And once they do that, we can actually make steps towards something else as we're concentrating on important factors instead of just doing what people have always instructed us to, and then our minds took over and ran wild. It's quite saddening when you see how many people will defend the way we treat animals and the way we treat the environment and say that that is our tradition, or it's what we've always done, when if they just thought for 5 seconds, we haven't had industry and factories for very long at all. So it's definitely not what we've always done. To also add that by saying that that's our tradition, they don't seem to notice that they're only picking and choosing a tradition. What about in some of those cultures where if you turned 13 or 14 years old as a boy, you had to drink a whole boot full of beer to prove that you were a man? Or when you became old enough to be self-efficient, you're left out in the woods to fend for yourself, and if you find your way back and can live for 2-3 weeks out in the woods on your own, then you qualified as somebody who's part of the tribe. Why don't we do those kind of traditions? I'm not saying we should, but I'm saying if we're going to pick one and say it's our tradition, look at all the traditions out there in the world and then realize you're not one ethnic background. You're a combination of everything and everyone who ever came before you. You may have a prominent color or a prominent shade of your skin, but each one of us is made of so many different people and so many different backgrounds. If you are an African American, or if you are an American or a Caucasian or Indian or Chinese person, you're not just Chinese. You're a little bit of everything. It's just your dominant genes right now seem to make it seem like you're either full-blooded or half-blooded, or all that stuff doesn't matter. It's part of your life. Take it into consideration. But don't make it be all you are. Because if you keep saying you're doing what your tradition said, we can never evolve. You're only doing what other people did. Think about it. Defending it by saying that's what we've always done is saying you don't want change, yet you know change is inevitable. Come on. We've got to be a little smarter than that. Because if we aren't, we're just wasting our time. Before you were a part of a group of friends, you were part of a family. Before you were part of a family, you were part of a world. Before you were part of a world, you were part of a universe. Before you were part of a universe, you were part of conscious energy. And before you were part of conscious energy, you were always you. If you can look at things in that kind of progression and value things in an opposite way that I just explained them, and take everything into consideration, yet know that you're coming from your individual place, then you can start affecting more things in the world in a positive way, because you take them into consideration and see them as part of your life, not something other than you.